everybody doing? Good. All right, so first of all, you did an excellent job hosting that. Yes, sir. Right? You said, you didn't know what qualifies, and that suit is qualified. That's all you need to do, and you're good to go. But excellent job. It's so good to be back. It's been a few years. When you have kids, babies, you just time. It seems like it's only been 8 months, man. It's been like 3 years. And I realized last time my wife and I came, we had, my daughter was 1. Now she's 4 and we got a 9-month-old. So it's been a while, but it's so good to see smiling faces. And Brother Danny, I'm not going to start naming people. It's going to cut into I'm doing an hour, right? No, I'm joking. But it's just so good to see. I mean, you grown now. Like I saw him coming out the bathroom. Oh, what's up, big dog? Grown. I mean, I got a gift too. Young Genuine now. He's doing it. Everybody is just growing up, and it's so good to see. So I just wanted to come talk to you for a little bit. First of all, what we're going to do, it's a little chilly, so let's warm up, all right? Quick exercise, gentlemen. I'm going to teach you something about creating your own energy, all right? So this is what I want everybody to do. I want you to rub your hands. Rub your hands. I need to see everybody rubbing. If you didn't eat yet, you should have been ate. If you got any fun, you rub your hands. There you go. Yeah, I'm in the old school. My mom used to embarrass me. Here we go. All right, now let's clap, 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 clap. Faster. 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 Now stop. Slowly pull your hands away. Push it back in. Breathe while you're doing it. Pull away. Push back in. Pull away. Push back in. Stop. If you did it right, you should feel energy. You should feel that ball almost like Street Fighter. Are you good? Y'all don't know about that. But yeah. You should feel energy in between your hands. Why is that? That's because we're created out of energy. Right? We're all moving energy. So anytime you're having a good day, if you're having a bad day, you can always create your own energy. So there really is no excuse for how your day goes. It's all up to you. Because that's what you're made of. All right? So, really quick, I was talking to Don about what you guys have been talking about throughout the semester and everything. And he let me in on it. And so, one of the things I've noticed while I do stand-up and a lot of different ministry and everything, I also work in the jail system. And teach the guys life skills, all right? And what I've noticed is a lot of those men, grown and young men at 21, 22, are very talented, very gifted. Some individuals very, very smart. They made some wrong decisions, though. They made some bad decisions. And most of the time, it all boils back down to either consistency or the lack thereof. Either there was no one in their life consistently, or they had opportunities and they weren't consistent with them. Okay? So what I want to talk to you about briefly, and I'm not going to go scripture, text, and do all that, but we're going to just talk about being consistent. All right? If there's a topic, it would be a key to the kingdom, right? A key to the kingdom. Consistency is one of the keys to help you become whatever you want to become. How many people want to do something great in life? Raise your hand. I should see everybody's hand up. Parents too. It ain't too late. If you want to be great, you have to be consistent. So when I was thinking, like, man, who could I talk about? There's so many people that have their stories about being consistent. So many people that we know about. You got your Martin Luther Kings, you got your Barack Obama, you got all these people. But I was thinking, what what's one of God's favorite people that we know is one of his favorite people? And David came to mind. David in the Bible. How many people know the story of David? When he slew Goliath. You guys know about David? All right, good. David was very consistent. David, from the time he was a child, right, was out tending sheep. Father trusted him to tend the sheep, which is a big deal because that's his dad's money. When sheep get away, that money gets away, right? And so it was very, very important for David to be consistent in his job. So David, right, as you know, before he ever fought Goliath, he had to fight a lion. The lion came, tried to take one of the sheep away, and David went over and gave him a 1-2. He's more consistent than me, because that sheep would have been gone. I'm not fighting no lion, and I'm definitely not fighting a bear, right? So David went and fought off these lions and bears, so that by the time it came to where there was a challenge, and Goliath, the giant, was telling everyone, here comes David, I'll fight him. And they're like, no, you're too little, get on somewhere. He's like, oh, you don't know, let me tell you what I've been doing. I fought a bear the other day. How many people can say that I fought a bear the other day and I won? Right? He fought a lion, right? So by the time he got to Goliath, that was nothing to him. So God doesn't normally put you in a situation you're not ready for. He had been preparing him through his consistency the whole time. So I want to show you a couple of things about David's life. When you are consistent, it's important, right? Consistency is not just like, oh, I want to do something and you talk about it all the time. Consistency is actually doing it. That's why Kobe, one of my favorite players of all time. Folks hate him, but I tell you one thing, that man was consistent. He was in the gym and took shot after shot after shot, so that by the time he got serious, he was able to knock down game winners with no problem. Many of us talk about being consistent, but we're not. I'll give you a perfect example. I had a friend back when I was in college. And you talk about people you had to get away from. I had to get away from CJ. CJ was a nice guy. He had just gotten saved. He was trying to do his thing, and he got me a prepaid legal. Right? That's how we I don't know about that. I had to meet 10 people that do 10 people that do 10 people. Right? So I was working in prepaid legal. And CJ, all he either talked about prepaid legal or God, man. So at first he was cool, but he wasn't always consistent in what he was trying to do. He would always go back. He would have inconsistent moments. We would be talking, and it was something about it. See, CJ, he had came out of being a Crip. He was cripping, right? And there was something about that lifestyle that would keep pulling him back in. CJ, we'd be having a regular conversation. Like, oh man, yeah, you saw the fight? Yeah, I saw the fight. She said, I remember I used to fight. Yeah, man, then I just step up to him, homie, and then I mean, he was just losing his mind. It was almost like, CJ, come back. But the reason he kept going back to that was because that was the thing that had been consistent in his life for so long. Consistency works both ways. It caused him to be inconsistent with prayer life and who he wanted to be, but he was consistent in that because that's what he had been doing. So if you're consistently not getting good grades, consistently talking in class, you will consistently be in trouble. Brother Darrell will take care of you when you're big. But if you say, you know what, I want to do something different, and instead of just telling your mom, yeah, mom, I'm going to do this, instead of just telling your friends, yeah, friends, I'm going to do this, and you begin to do it, you will find out that you can get to anywhere and any result that you want. Okay? I remember I was thinking about myself and consistency, and I've been at times in my life inconsistent and consistent. And one of the most important things, I can talk about comedy, I can talk about playing ball, but one of the things that really sticks out, when I got my first job in sales, I used to sell medical devices. And I mean, when I got the job, I was terrible. I didn't have any training. I didn't know what I was doing. I almost got fired. I didn't have a clue, right? And so I had territory from LA to Bakersfield. And I remember I would go out to Bakersfield and see this one doctor. I see all my doctors, but I kept going to this single practice physician. They want me to go to where there's a lot of doctors, right? And I would just go. My manager was getting mad. He was like, why do you keep going to this little office? I was like, because I think they got something there, man. I don't know what it is, but I think they got something. He was like, man, stop going to that office. But every week, I would go. At first, they couldn't stand me. They, oh, here he comes. I said, that's all right. I kept coming. Then I got smart. I said, well, let me take some cookies. They look like they enjoy some cookies. Brought my chocolate chip cookies. All of a sudden, the nursing staff started liking me, right? Because I'm bringing in the cookies every time I come. But I went every week for 9 months and never saw the doctor. The doctor was like, Dr. Claw, you remember that? You never want to see his hand? Like, I never saw this man. Didn't even know if he existed. And I just stayed going and stayed going. One day I walked in the office and the nursing staff was like, Aaron, come in. I was like, I got the cookies. I got the cookies. I was like, no. Dr. Lorraine the competition just came in, they messed up, and he's furious, and I think he'll see you today. Are you ready? I was like, yeah. Been ready for 9 months. I'm ready, right? So I go in the office. Finally, I talked to Dr. Lorraine for about 2 minutes, and that was it. And he was like, okay, thank you. Left out. And I was like, well, I don't know how that went, but at least I saw him. A week later, he started using my product. And that single practice physician in Bakersfield, whose office may not even been as big as this room, ended up giving me 50% of my business. I went from making basically like $40,000 to 6 figures within 6 months because of this one office that I would not give up on. The interesting thing is that it took me 9 months to finally talk to this dude. But it took me 2 minutes to actually get his business. See, a lot of the reason people don't like consistency is because it's hard work. It's not easy. But one thing that's true about if you will push through and if you will be consistent is that the time it takes you to build it up, it's not going to take half of that time for it actually to come true in your life. And from there, I just sailed on and was going and just went to the top from the 85th rep in the country, which was the last rep, to number 5. Wow. Just like that. And so that was one thing that showed me early. I was about 22, 23, I was young, but it showed me that if you will continue to work hard for something you said you wanted, something you believe in, you can do it. It will happen. Okay? So, I want to close out with this. I want to give you guys a couple points, okay? When you're focused on being consistent and when you're focused on becoming a champion, there's certain things that you have to do, okay? Number one, you can't be defeated by the small battles, okay? And John talked about these, and it's like you can't worry about the small losses. David was not defeated by his small losses. Before he became king, he took some losses. David was on the run from Saul for about 10 years. Living in caves, doing whatever he could do, but he had his mind focused. The problem is we focus on the how. How am I going to get this? How am I going to get this money to go here? How? We need to focus on the why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And if you'll focus on the why, the how will take care of itself. But you just got to keep going towards it. Don't worry about the small losses because at the end, you're trying to win the war. I learned that in marriage. Well, actually, I learned that in dating before marriage. By the time I got married, I was like, no, I ain't. You got it. You got it. I wasn't about to argue over the small things that didn't matter because at the end of the day, technically, it's a war. But I'm just trying to tell you, though, don't get caught up. So what, you fell down? Imagine if LeBron, when they lost the first game, he said, I quit. Guess I'm not meant to be a Laker. It's 82 games in the season. Right. Get up. Everybody loses. So what? Keep going. Because we're trying to win the war. Number two, what is the war? So let's put it to you like the war is what? Low grades. You're trying to win that battle, right? You're doing it. He did that. The beginning of the year, it's only December, and already he got student of the month. That's incredible. But that means that he kept fighting. What if in September he said, Mom, I'm not doing so good. I want to go back to my old school. But he didn't. He kept going. Kept fighting. And now he's getting to where he wants to be. You got to keep going, right? What else? What else is a war? Low expectations. As young men, especially young black men, it is not okay to accept the fact that you're not expected to achieve. You have to, I don't care if your mom don't believe it, if your dad don't believe it, you have to get an expectation in here. Inside that says, I don't care what anybody else says, I will be successful. I will be the best. I will get my grades. I will do everything I want to do. If I want to play ball, I will play ball. It's up to you. You create what? Your own energy. Right? And then being prepared. You have to be prepared. Now, I know some of you are young, but it starts young. Parents, make sure they're prepared. Make sure they are doing that chore. And if they ain't doing it, you know what time it is. I don't know what that means for you. Yes. But you know. Preparation starts in the household. We can't expect the schools to prepare our children because they don't do that. It's not the schools that we grew up in. It's a totally different ballgame. You have to prepare the children. I was just in a parenting class today talking to the men, and one of the things that they talked about, they said, well, parents, and there was a young guy, he's about 21, he said, parents nowadays just so on some get out of my house at 18. He said, but they don't teach me what to do when I get 18. He said, it's almost like you got some raw meat and you don't show me how to make the burger, you just say, go make a burger. You have to season them. You have to give them the seasoning. You have to give them the lessons. And sometimes you got to let them fall and understand that they will get back up. But preparation starts in the home. Do not feel just because dad ain't home that means you have to overcompensate. These are young men. It is not easy outside. So if they're getting everything from mom, and then they go outside and it's a totally different world, they are not prepared. I can say that because I'm not working here every time. I'm not here every Tuesday. So you can get mad at me if you want to. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing in these guys. All right? So make sure, parents, that we are preparing these young men for their future. And lastly, winning is an action. Okay? It's the process of continuing to do right over and over and over. Okay, good. You made the honor roll this month. Do it again. And do it again. And do it again until we expect that you better come home with some A's because that's what you do. Do it again until your teacher starts paying attention to you. If you want somebody to pay attention to you, be consistent. Keep going. Keep doing it again. All right? So let me just say this. David, one of the cool things about David, when I realized this, I was like, that is incredible. David was actually anointed king by Samuel in 1025 BC. Okay, so Samuel came, you guys know the story. He came, said, where are your sons? Jesse wasn't really feeling David, so he brought the other sons. He was like, no, ain't none of them it. It's another one. And he found David out in the field doing what he does, right? And he anointed him king. It wasn't until 1000 BC that he actually became the king. And so it's very interesting to note that the whole time he knew he was going to be the king of Israel. But he didn't get crowned until 25 years later. So what am I saying with that? I'm saying you are all kings in here. If you don't believe it, I got scripture for you. When you get home, Romans 8:29-30 says, for whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among their brethren. Moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also called. And whom he called, them he also justified. And whom he justified, them he also glorified. Guess what? All of you are called. So that means God has equipped you as a king with everything you need already. You don't need validation from your friends. You don't need the homies to put you on. You don't need a girl's validation. Huh? You don't need that because you're already a king. I've been there. I went through that. Girl told me I would look cute with glasses. I acted like I couldn't see. The doctor said, "There's nothing wrong with his eyes." I wanted glasses. So I've been there. I've done that. But you don't need anything. Why? Because God calls you a king. You're made in his image. So if he calls you a king, just because you don't have the crown on yet, doesn't mean you aren't there. So walk consistently towards what you want. You want better grades? Be consistent. If you want a career, be consistent. If you want your children to act right, parents, be consistent. And the more consistency, the more we do right, the more we keep doing things over and over and over, we will finally get the keys to the kingdom. All right? God bless you guys.